About the monster. We must kill it, or it will kill us all.
Friends, if you want to watch the super hit movie Predator, Killer of Killers, 2025, in English, then make sure to like this video. And if you are visiting our channel for the first time, don't forget to subscribe to Facts and Review. Friends, in today's video we are going to talk about the film Predator, Killer of Killers, 2025. We'll cover what this movie is all about, where you can watch it, and some very interesting and lesser-known facts related to this film. In today's video, I'll tell you everything, from which OTT platform or satellite channel you can watch this movie on, to the full details about its technical department, music, pre-production, filming, post-production, budget, and even box office collection. Not just that, we will also discuss the storyline, and I will give you a quick review of this movie's plot. Along with that, we'll talk about the star cast, actors' performances, and which actor played which role in the film. So friends, I request you to watch this video till the end because it's going to be full of useful and exciting information. Let's begin the video. Clapperboard Predator, Killer of Killers, 2025. Plot and narrative analysis. Predator, Killer of Killers, 2025, returns the iconic alien hunter to the screen in a film that blends survival horror, psychological warfare, and military action. Unlike previous installments, this entry dives deeper into the hierarchy of predators themselves, exploring not just humans versus alien, but predator versus predator. Narrative structure and style. The film follows a partially non-linear structure. It opens in medias res, in the middle of the action, with a group of elite mercenaries being stalked in the dense Amazon rainforest. Quick flash-forwards and flashbacks are interspersed throughout the first half of the film, revealing how each member ended up in this situation. Rather than using one protagonist, the story is told from a multi-perspective point of view, including the leader of the human team, a rogue government scientist, and eventually, shockingly, the viewpoint of a predator known only as the Killer of Killers. Cyclone Act I, the setup and mystery. The story begins with a covert military unit being dropped into a restricted zone in the Amazon. The mission, they are told, is to retrieve a missing deep-cover operative. But from the beginning, the forest feels wrong. Eerie silence, bodies torn apart by unseen claws, and scorched ground marks the presence of something otherworldly. Parallel to this, viewers are introduced to a subplot involving a discredited xenobiologist, Dr. Lena Voss, who has tracked extraterrestrial patterns for decades. She believes a new breed of predator is on Earth, not to hunt humans, but to eliminate other predators. The key question of the first act becomes, who is hunting the hunters? Crossed Swords Act II, the revelation and conflict. The second act ramps up the tension. One by one, the mercenaries are killed, not by traps or primitive tools, but by advanced tech and brutal efficiency. These are not random killings, they are executions. That's when they encounter the first predator. But something is different. This predator is badly wounded, on the run, and afraid. Through holographic recordings recovered from Predator gear, the characters, and the audience learn that a rogue ultra-elite predator, dubbed Killer of Killers, has been traveling across galaxies executing his own kind for defiling the code of the hunt. This predator sees other predators who hunt children, the weak, or civilians as dishonorable. He is both a judge and an executioner, a vigilante from another world. Explosion Symbol Act III, Survival, Alliance and Sacrifice. With both human and alien corpses piling up, the remaining team is forced to form an uneasy alliance with the wounded predator, who agrees to help them if they help him repair a beacon to call reinforcements. The climax reveals the killer of killers in full, taller, faster, with bioengineered armor and weapons forged from the bones of other predators. A final battle erupts as he descends upon both the humans and the Dishnid predator. It's brutal, fast, and unrelenting. One of the main human characters, Voss, sacrifices herself to detonate the ship core to destroy the killer, but he survives, walking away, scorched but unbroken. The film ends with a final chilling shot, a predator skull on a pike, impaled into Earth's soil, a warning. Left-pointing magnifying glass narrative themes and emotional impact. Themes of honor, betrayal, and survival are central. The film redefines the mythos of the predator species, showing internal divisions, codes of ethics, and a civil war of ideology. The idea that even killers have rules brings a complex philosophical undertone. Key emotional moments include the moment the human characters realize they are not the apex predators, the alliance between man and alien, not out of trust but desperation, the sacrifice of Voss, driven not by duty but by belief in a greater cause. This entry is more morally grey than any before. It asks, who is truly the monster, the killer without rules, or the one who hunts his own kind for breaking them? Conclusion. Predator, Killer of Killers, 2025, uses a hybrid narrative approach, combining flashbacks, intercut perspectives, and slow-burn tension. The structure is unconventional but rewarding, unfolding like a survival horror puzzle with layers of mythos. It stands out in the franchise by offering a predator versus predator conflict, while maintaining the thrilling, deadly cat-and-mouse pacing that fans love. This makes it both a thematic evolution and a satisfying return to form for the Predator saga. Let me know if you'd like a Urdu translation, a shorter version for narration, or visuals to match this analysis for YouTube. Predator, Killer of Killers, 2025. Character Development Breakdown. Predator, Killer of Killers, 2025, isn't just about spectacle and survival. It's a story layered with characters who face inner demons while being hunted by a literal one. Through its ensemble cast, the film explores themes of morality, trust, and the psychology of being preyed upon. Each character is shaped by the chaos around them, and their personal arcs feed into the film's emotional and thematic impact. Gold Military Medal #1. Major Alex Rourke, the Broken Leader. Background. A former Special Ops commander disgraced after a failed mission in Syria, Rourke is haunted by the decisions that cost innocent lives. He is recruited for this off-the-books mission as a chance at redemption. At the start, Rourke is emotionally distant, tactical, and unwilling to connect with others. His leadership is authoritative but cold. However, as his team dwindles and the nature of the threat becomes clear, he begins to open up, particularly in moments with Dr. Voss, revealing guilt, fear, and a longing for purpose beyond violence. Transformation. Rourke's major turning point comes when he chooses not to kill the wounded predator, defying orders from higher command. In doing so, he transitions from a weapon of the system to a man of his own conscience. By the end, Rourke sacrifices his escape to protect the remaining survivors, symbolizing his emotional rebirth. 2. Dr. Lena Voss, the outcast scientist. Background. Once a respected xenobiologist with ties to early predator sightings, Lena Voss was discredited for her wild theories about alien codes of honor and interspecies ethics. She is recruited as a last resort, and her role begins as exposition, but quickly deepens. Voss begins as the crazy scientist archetype, but her sharp intellect, empathy, and understanding of the predators evolve into critical assets. She forms a bond with both the wounded predator and Rourke, becoming a bridge between species. Transformation, her final act, choosing to manually trigger the beacon's overload, knowing it will kill her, isn't just heroic, it's symbolic. It proves her belief in higher ideals, that even monsters can have honor, and even the forgotten can shape fate. She begins dismissed, ends as a martyr. Skull 3. The Killer of Killers, the Rogue Predator. Background. A mysterious figure within predator society, this creature is unlike any seen before. He hunts not for sport, but to cleanse his race of Dishna. He is judge, jury, and executioner among his own kind. The Killer of Killers has no dialogue in a human language, but his story is told visually, through his choices, his targets, and the scars he carries. He is not evil, but he is merciless. His motivations are rooted in a twisted sense of justice, following a spiritual code to its bloody conclusion. Symbolism. This predator is a mirror to Rourke. Both are soldiers trying to correct past sins. But where Rourke seeks redemption through saving lives, the killer redeems his race by ending them. His lack of traditional emotional change is intentional. He is a force of ideological purity, a dark angel of justice. Bullseye 4. Supporting characters, archetypes with depth. Corporal Deeks, a tough-talking sharpshooter who begins as comic relief but dies trying to protect a civilian child, hinting at hidden compassion. Sergeant Mendez, a mother who left her child to take this mission. Her arc is about confronting fear and choosing self-sacrifice to give others a chance at life. Private Rebel Singh, a conspiracy theorist whose wild ideas turn out to be true. He starts as a joke but grows into a pivotal strategist. These side characters are not just filler, they are tools for contrast, each one reflecting a different human reaction to primal fear: denial, aggression, sacrifice, faith. Link symbol: interpersonal relationships and conflicts. Relationships in this film evolve under pressure. What begins as distrust among strangers turns into fragile camaraderie. The Rourke-Voss dynamic becomes the emotional backbone of the film, grounded in mutual respect and philosophical debates about war, aliens, and survival. Even the brief human-predator alliance adds complexity. Gestures, glances, and shared battles silently tell a story of earned respect across species. The conflict between humans and the killer predator isn't just physical, it's ideological. It's about who deserves to hunt, to survive, and what code governs those decisions. Psychological and thematic layers. The character development in Predator, Killer of Killers, is unusually rich for an action horror sci-fi. Every arc touches on identity, morality, trauma, and redemption. The humans are not just targets, they are people with pasts, regrets, and dreams. The Predator isn't just an alien, it's a warrior driven by belief, pain, and conviction. Checkered flag conclusion. Predator, Killer of Killers, 2025, is more than just a battle for survival. It's a study of character under pressure. The development of its leads, the emotional weight of its deaths, and the moral ambiguity of its predator antagonist make it one of the most emotionally mature and narratively compelling entries in the franchise. The film proves that even in a universe of violence, character matters. And sometimes, the scariest thing isn't the monster in the jungle, but the battle inside ourselves. Let me know if you'd like a summary version, video script format, or Urdu translation of this detailed breakdown. Predator, Killer of Killers, 2025, Performance Analysis. Predator, Killer of Killers, 2025, brings together a diverse and talented ensemble cast, blending veteran actors, rising stars, and motion capture performers into a cohesive force that elevates the film beyond traditional action horror fare. In a franchise often driven by spectacle, this installment distinguishes itself through emotionally grounded and layered performances, anchoring its high-concept sci-fi chaos in human vulnerability and alien ideology. Gold Military Medal #1. Josh Brolin as Major Alex Rourke, a performance of controlled turmoil. Veteran actor Josh Brolin delivers one of the most compelling performances of his career as Major Alex Rourke, a grizzled, emotionally scarred ex-soldier drawn into a final mission for redemption. Known for bringing gravitas to rugged characters, Brolin uses restraint and stillness to portray Rourke's internal war. From his first scene, Brolin imbues Rourke with a quiet intensity, every pause, every subtle shift in expression hinting at past trauma and buried guilt. His evolution from hardened leader to sacrificial protector is rendered with emotional authenticity, particularly in key dialogue scenes with Dr. Voss and in his silent standoff with the rogue predator. Brolin carries the emotional weight of the film and ensures that the audience never forgets the human cost of war, whether alien or earthly. Small Blue Diamond's standout scene, Rourke's silent decision not to kill the wounded predator, his hand trembling on the trigger, eyes filled with both fear and empathy, perfectly captures his moral transformation. 2. Rebecca Ferguson as Dr. Lena Voss, smart, subtle, and soulful. Rebecca Ferguson, best known for her nuanced roles in Mission, Impossible and Dune, brings intelligence and quiet strength to the character of Dr. Lena Voss, the disgraced xenobiologist turned unlikely savior. Ferguson's portrayal avoids cliché. Rather than a mad scientist or helpless damsel, Voss emerges as a deeply curious and morally grounded figure. Ferguson plays her with understated vulnerability, tempered by fierce conviction. Her scenes of discovery, interpreting predator glyphs, deducing the rogue hunter's motives, are filled with believable passion and urgency. Her chemistry with Brolin is another highlight. Their dynamic isn't romantic, but based on mutual respect, and Ferguson's performance adds emotional depth to Rourke's arc as well as her own. By the final act, she becomes the film's moral compass, and her final moments carry genuine emotional impact. Small Blue Diamond's standout scene, In a quietly powerful moment, Voss touches the predator's shoulder after it spares her life, her eyes reflecting awe and sorrow, an exchange without words, but rich in meaning. Skull 3. Javier Botet as the killer of killers, alien precision and presence. Motion capture master Javier Botet delivers a haunting and unforgettable performance as the titular rogue predator, known only as the killer of killers. Famous for his physicality in horror films, Mama, The Conjuring 2, Botet brings a terrifying grace to the role. Though the predator doesn't speak, every gesture, tilt of the head, and movement is loaded with intention. Botet's lean, elongated frame is used to full effect, making the killer feel less like a brute and more like an executioner from a myth. His ability to project emotion, rage, judgment, even a twisted form of honor, without dialogue is remarkable. This is not a monster but a character with a code. Botet's performance ensures the predator is not just feared, but also respected. Small Blue Diamond standout scene. The killer's ritualistic execution of a dishonored predator, followed by a moment of silent mourning, showcases the complexity Botet injects into the character. Bullseye 4. Supporting cast, real people in unreal circumstances. The supporting ensemble is equally strong, with several standout performances that help ground the narrative in realism. John Boyega as Sergeant Mendez brings depth and intensity to a role that could have been one-dimensional. Her internal struggle between duty and motherhood is portrayed with subtle emotion, especially in her last stand. Dev Patel as Private Rebel Singh offers a surprising turn as a conspiracy theorist whose paranoia becomes prophecy. His performance evolves from comedic to tragic, with a final moment of bravery that feels fully earned. Wyatt Russell as Corporal Deeks balances swagger and humanity. Though seemingly the group's comic relief, his emotional breakdown after witnessing the first predator kill is raw and memorable. Each actor adds a layer of believability, enhancing the film's core theme. Survival isn't just physical, it's psychological. Ensemble dynamics and chemistry. What truly elevates the performances is the ensemble chemistry. Characters evolve not in isolation but through their interactions with each other and with the predator itself. Moments of trust, betrayal, silence, and sacrifice unfold naturally, thanks to strong direction and committed acting. The film allows its actors room to breathe, even in the midst of chaos, and as a result, the characters feel real, grounded, and worth caring about. Clapperboard final verdict. Performances that transcend genre. In Predator, Killer of Killers, 2025, the performances are not just serviceable, they are essential to the film's emotional and thematic depth. Led by a commanding Josh Brolin and a graceful Rebecca Ferguson, and anchored by Javier Botet's silent menace, the cast turns a sci-fi action movie into a morally complex and emotionally resonant story. This is not just a monster movie. It's a character-driven survival epic, and the actors are the soul of its success. Would you like a narrated version, voiceover script, or a translation in Urdu for YouTube? Predator, Killer of Killers, 2025, Direction Analysis. The direction of Predator, Killer of Killers, 2025, is a defining force behind the film's critical success and emotional weight. Under the visionary eye of director Gareth Evans, known for the Raid series and Apostle, the film fuses brutal survivalist tension with a meditative exploration of honor, guilt, and sacrifice. Evans reshapes the Predator franchise from the inside out, favoring a slow-burning psychological thriller over a conventional monster hunting spectacle. Movie Camera 1. Tone and mood, a world of dread and reflection. Evans sets the tone early, bleak, immersive, and dread-filled. From the opening scene, an abandoned outpost with bodies arranged ritualistically, the mood is eerily ceremonial, unlike the chaotic violence of previous entries. The tone is more gothic than gory, laced with philosophical undertones about violence, predator instinct, and morality. Instead of constant adrenaline, Evans uses strategic tension. Quiet scenes linger. Silence becomes deafening. Fear is stretched out, not just over jump scares, but over moral dilemmas and unpredictable decisions. The jungle, normally a wild playground in predator lore, becomes a metaphor for the characters' fractured psyches. Bullseye directorial impact. The tone is that of a spiritual thriller wrapped in a war film, amplified by minimalist music, slow camera movements, and contemplative pauses. Film #2. Stylistic choices, purposeful and poetic brutality. Gareth Evans injects his signature style into every frame. Long-take fight choreography. True to his Raid roots, Evans stages fights with real-world weight. The hand-to-hand sequence between Major Rourke and the killer predator is shot in a single, unbroken take, raw, violent, and desperate. It's not about spectacle. It's about survival. Low-light cinematography. Much of the film unfolds at dawn, dusk, or in torchlit interiors. These lighting choices elevate the mystery and horror elements, turning every shadow into a potential threat. Symbolic framing. Characters are often shown as isolated figures within vast, overgrown landscapes, emphasizing their insignificance in the eyes of nature or of the predator's alien code. This imagery reinforces the themes of judgment and mortality. Slow pacing with surgical tension. Unlike the frantic rhythm of Predator, 1987, or The Predator, 2018, this film uses a deliberately slow pace to let fear, regret, and moral ambiguity stew. Evans trusts the audience to lean into the discomfort. Bullseye result. These stylistic decisions make Killer of Killers art house in execution, but primal in essence. The result is unique in the franchise. 3. Narrative vision. Structure as philosophy. Evans structures the story like a three-act tragedy. Act I, a classic recon-mission setup, but infused with unease. It echoes Apocalypse Now in its descent into darkness, both physical and moral. Act II, the midpoint reveals the Predator's true purpose, not a hunter of humans, but an executioner of dishonoured predators. This twist reorients the entire film, introducing an unexpected ethical dimension. Now the Predator isn't a monster, he's a zealot. Act III, Evans lets the story slow down, as characters begin making choices not just to survive, but to atone. It's no longer just about escape. It's about resolution. Evans also introduces non-linear elements, flashbacks triggered by trauma, distorted memories, and dreamlike montages, especially during character deaths. This stylization elevates the emotional stakes and adds psychological depth. Bullseye conclusion. Evans treats the story not as a series of events, but as a moral reckoning, aligning every narrative decision with the film's central themes of judgment and redemption. Framed picture #4. Shot composition and visual symbolism. The film is filled with visual metaphors. The Predator often looms from high angles, reinforcing its godlike judgment. Rourke is filmed through broken glass, rusted metal, and decaying leaves, symbols of his fractured soul. Close-ups of dead prey, predator glyphs, and ceremonial markings evoke a ritualistic atmosphere, reinforcing the spiritual undertones. The jungle becomes more than a setting. It becomes a thematic character, breathing and watching, always present. Evans' use of the widescreen frame emphasizes vulnerability. The vast horizontal space often leaves human characters small and exposed, tiny figures in a predator's domain. Stopwatch #5. Pacing, bold, risky, and rewarding. At 2 hours and 15 minutes, Killer of Killers has a longer runtime than most Predator films, and it uses every minute with intention. The first half is a slow burn, dedicated to mood, exposition, and character building. Action comes in precise bursts, not frequent, but unforgettable. This slower rhythm may alienate some action-first fans, but for those patient enough to follow Evans' vision, the payoff is profound. The tension mounts steadily, culminating in a final act that is brutal, cathartic, and emotionally devastating. 6. Directional signature, blending genre with intellect. Evans doesn't just direct a Predator movie, he redefines one. His approach combines horror with honor code mythology, favors emotional scars over physical heroism, uses the alien not as a monster, but as a mirror to humanity. This artistic ambition sets Killer of Killers apart from every other franchise entry. It doesn't just ask who will survive. It asks who deserves to. Clapperboard in short, Evans directs not with fear, but with philosophy. Pushpin final thoughts, a director's triumph. Gareth Evans' direction in Predator, Killer of Killers, 2025, is a masterclass in genre reinvention. Through tone, style, and narrative depth, he transforms what could have been a simple creature feature into a psychological, philosophical, and cinematic experience. This is the Predator film for a new era, introspective, brutal, and morally complex, and its director is the reason why it works so powerfully. Would you like this reformatted into a video voiceover script, Urdu translation, or shortened summary for your YouTube channel content? I can also break this down into segment-based formats for easier editing. Predator, Killer of Killers, 2025. Cinematography analysis. The cinematography of Predator, Killer of Killers, 2025, is not merely a visual layer, it's a storytelling engine. Under the lens of cinematographer Dan Lawson, The Shape of Water, John Wick 4, the film transforms into a visual tapestry of isolation, dread, and primal poetry. Every shot is crafted to reinforce the film's deeper themes: survival, judgment, and the blurred line between hunter and hunted. New Moon Symbol 1. Lighting, a world bathed in shadows and firelight. Lighting in this film does more than illuminate. It sculpts tension and reveals inner states. Natural light dominance. Most of the film is lit with available or simulated natural sources: flickering torchlight, setting suns, and moonbeams piercing through mist-laden trees. This creates a tactile, immersive realism that emphasizes vulnerability. Low-key lighting and chiaroscuro, especially in interiors, like the abandoned facility and ancient temple ruins, scenes are lit with dramatic contrasts of light and shadow. This creates a claustrophobic, almost gothic atmosphere, intensifying the psychological horror. Flame and flicker. Fire becomes a recurring motif, not just visually, but emotionally. It symbolizes both destruction and rebirth. In key scenes, such as Rourke's final confrontation or the Predator's execution ritual, characters are bathed in flickering amber light, creating a sense of ancient ceremony. Torch lighting insight. The shadows conceal fear, but also force characters and viewers to peer inward. Clapperboard 2. Framing, isolation, judgment, and symbolism. Lawson uses deliberate, painterly framing to shape narrative subtext. Wide shots. Characters are often placed in vast, empty frames, swallowed by jungle, dwarfed by alien technology, or framed against apocalyptic skies. This conveys existential insignificance and vulnerability. Center framing of the predator. The rogue predator, killer of killers, is often positioned dead center in symmetrical frames, emphasizing his purpose as a force of divine judgment, an impartial arbiter of honor. Close-ups on eyes and hands. During moments of emotional tension, the camera lingers on eyes, revealing fear, realization, or resolve, and hands, gripping weapons, trembling with restraint or offering mercy. These micro-expressions become emotional storytelling devices. Bullseye framing function. Every shot reflects inner psychology. No frame is wasted. Ferris wheel 3. Camera movement. Stillness versus sudden chaos. Lawson and director Gareth Evans deploy contrasting styles of movement to control emotional rhythm. Slow, floating tracking shots, used to explore environments or reveal information. These gliding shots instill unease, as if the jungle itself is watching. They mimic the predator's POV, making viewers feel observed and hunted. Static setups during moral conflict. When characters face ethical dilemmas, the camera often remains still, allowing the moment to breathe. The absence of movement forces focus onto the actor's performance and the stakes of the scene. Abrupt, handheld intensity. In combat sequences, especially during Rourke's brawl with the Predator, the camera switches to handheld, intimate, and brutal. Shaky but controlled, it pulls the viewer into the chaos without relying on frenetic editing. Cyclone cinematic effect. Movement is used not for spectacle, but for emotional calibration. Milky Way 4. Visually striking moments, frames that linger. Certain scenes stand out as visually unforgettable, not just for their aesthetics, but for what they signify. The temple execution scene, lit entirely by burning glyphs on stone walls, this moment is bathed in deep reds and golds. The Predator's ritual, filmed in slow motion with smoke curling around the frame, evokes both awe and terror. The Predator reveal. When the killer steps out of camo for the first time, the lighting subtly refracts off his armor. The reveal is not sudden, but reverent, like the arrival of a mythic entity. Rourke's vision sequence, a hallucinatory blend of dreamlike flashbacks and distorted imagery. This montage uses double exposure, slow zooms, and inverted color grading to convey psychological breakdown. Camera with flash takeaway. These sequences are more than visuals. They are cinematic rituals that enrich the mythos. Fog 5. Color palette, earth, blood, and void. The film's color palette evolves with the narrative. Act I uses desaturated greens and browns, grounding the story in military realism and organic decay. Act 2 introduces deep ochres, blacks, and metallic blues, a shift into the Predator's domain, where technology and ritual intersect. Act 3 erupts in fiery reds and golden ash, symbolizing moral confrontation and the final purging of guilt. Even in moments of violence, the color grading avoids comic book brightness. Instead, every hue feels grounded, primal, and tactile. Artist palette color language. The palette tells its own story: life, corruption, and cleansing through sacrifice. Hourglass with flowing sand 6. Atmosphere creation, fear through stillness. Unlike many action horror films that rely on quick cuts and bombastic visuals, Killer of Killers uses visual silence to build atmosphere. Long static shots of untouched jungle, slow zooms on ancient carvings, or a slow push-in on a character hearing distant clicking, all work to create a palpable sense of dread. By refusing to rush, the cinematography forces the viewer to feel the weight of what might be watching. And when violence finally erupts, it lands with double the impact. Fire, atmospheric control. Cinematography dictates the emotional weather of every scene. Film # final verdict. Visual storytelling elevated. Dan Laustsen's cinematography in Predator, Killer of Killers, 2025, does more than capture action. It elevates mood, deepens character, and supports the film's moral ambiguity. It is meditative but brutal, intimate but mythic, and always purposeful. This film is not just seen. It is felt through light, lens, and shadow, a rare feat in modern genre cinema. Would you like this content translated into Urdu, broken into script segments, or turned into a YouTube-style review voiceover? Let me know how you want to use it. Predator, Killer of Killers, 2025, Editing and Pacing Analysis. The editing of Predator, Killer of Killers, 2025, handled by veteran editor Joe Walker, June, Blade Runner 2049, is an intricate balance of restraint and release, mirroring the film's dual nature as both a brutal action thriller and a meditative survival drama. Through calculated rhythm, transitional clarity, and thematic editing choices, Walker helps shape a story that flows with purpose, even when it deliberately slows down to make the audience uneasy. Stopwatch #1. Pacing, a slow burn with explosive punctuations. The film's pacing is deliberately measured, and that's by design. This isn't a non-stop, bullet-spraying action piece like some of its franchise predecessors. Instead, director Gareth Evans and editor Joe Walker build a structure that uses silence, anticipation, and stillness as narrative weapons. Act I unfolds with slow exposition. The editing lingers on small moments, tracking soldiers' uncertain steps through foliage, dwelling on eerie remnants of past massacres, and giving weight to every creak, echo, and rustle in the jungle. Act 2 maintains this slow burn style but introduces sharp narrative pivots, including sudden bursts of violence. These are not just action set pieces, they are emotional ruptures. The contrast between stillness and chaos is where the film thrives, and editing is the bridge between them. Act 3 ramps up the intensity. Here, the pace accelerates, but without abandoning clarity. Action sequences are allowed to breathe. The result is a final act that feels earned, not rushed. Bullseye impact. The pacing respects the intelligence of the audience. It demands patience, but rewards it with emotional weight and tension that never feels forced. Black Scissors #2. Transitions, seamless, symbolic, and subtle. Transitions in Killer of Killers are visually elegant and emotionally resonant. Joe Walker doesn't rely on flashy cuts. Instead, he uses match cuts, e.g., the camera cuts from a predator's glowing blood dripping into water, to a soldier washing blood off his hands, symbolizing guilt and connection. Dissolves and time lapses, especially during meditative sequences or jungle transitions, these tools are used to show the passage of time and emotional fatigue. Audio bridges, dialogue or sound from one scene bleeds into the next, creating a sense of continuity and dreamlike flow, especially in the character Rourke's flashbacks. Some transitions even hold thematic power, such as shifting from predator POVs, in Heat Vision, to human perspectives, emphasizing the dual lenses of predator and prey. Result: transitions aren't just technical. They reinforce narrative motifs like surveillance, memory, and judgment. Repeat button 3. Editing during action, controlled chaos. Where many action horror films fall into the trap of rapid cut, shaky-cam confusion, Killer of Killers takes the opposite approach. Long takes dominate key fight sequences. Walker allows the choreography, often brutal and grounded, to play out in real time. This enhances realism and intensity. Strategic cutting is used to emphasize impact. For instance, during a predator ambush, the camera cuts not with every blow, but at emotional beats, like a soldier's breath catching before death, or a silent glance exchanged before a sacrifice. Minimal cross-cutting. Instead of bouncing between multiple action threads at once, a common franchise tactic, the film focuses on one thread at a time, heightening clarity and emotional stakes. Cross-swords effect. Action scenes are not just set pieces. They are narrative climaxes, and the editing respects that by ensuring spatial and emotional coherence. Performing Arts 4. Emotional editing, letting moments breathe. Walker's editorial rhythm allows for emotional resonance. After major deaths or reveals, the film takes a moment to pause. No music, no dialogue, just a beat of silence or a slow push-in on a character's reaction. In scenes where characters confront their past or trauma, especially in Rourke's case, Walker uses disjointed edits, flashes of memory, and abrupt visual intrusions, mirroring PTSD symptoms. The balance of tempo helps define character arcs. When the pacing slows, we feel introspection. When it speeds up, we sense urgency or dread. Every edit is made with character psychology in mind. Insight, Walker cuts for feeling, not just flow. 5. Narrative rhythm, structured like a descent. The film's editing rhythm is almost musical in structure. Intro equals allegro moderato, steady, curious, setting the tone. Middle equals adagio, tense, brooding, introspective. Final act equals vivace con fuoco, urgent, explosive, cathartic. This pattern mimics a descent into hell, followed by a rapid, violent escape. Each act has its own pacing identity, which keeps the audience engaged despite the film's length and meditative tone. Musical score conclusion. The film is not paced like a roller coaster. It's more like a slow dive into abyss, ending in a firestorm of revelation. Scales #6. Is there any drag or rushing? While most critics and audiences will appreciate the film's bold pacing, some may find the first act slow, particularly those expecting wall-to-wall action. There are extended dialogue sequences and atmospheric shots that could feel indulgent to action-focused viewers. However, this slow build-up is essential for character depth and thematic layering. Without it, the emotional payoff in the final act wouldn't hit nearly as hard. Police Car's revolving light note. The film does not rush, even at the risk of alienating some mainstream audiences. But for those invested, it offers a rich and immersive reward. White have a checkmark final verdict, editorial mastery with purpose. Joe Walker's editing in Predator, Killer of Killers, 2025, is a triumph of restraint, rhythm, and thematic alignment. It enhances not just the plot, but the psychology and emotional tone of every scene. This isn't editing designed to thrill, it's editing designed to immerse, haunt, and scar. And it does so with new perfect precision. Would you like this transformed into a voiceover script, simplified summary, or translated into Urdu for your channel facts and review? Let me know. Predator, Killer of Killers, 2025, soundtrack and score analysis. The score of Predator, Killer of Killers, 2025, is not simply background noise. It is a visceral force that drives tension, defines identity, and echoes morality. Composed by the genre-renowned Ben Frost, whose work on Dark Fortitude and Raised by Wolves has made him synonymous with cerebral, haunting soundscapes, the score in Killer of Killers is both ambient and primal, laced with dread, ritualism, and the heartbeat of the hunt. Musical score 1. Overall tonality, an atmosphere of dread and ritual. Ben Frost eschews traditional orchestral arrangements in favor of a hybrid industrial electronic palette that evokes a world collapsing under moral weight and alien judgment. The sonic tone oscillates between low, pulsing drones that simulate both jungle ambience and a predator's steady, relentless presence. Dissonant strings and metallic rattles, creating discomfort during scenes of psychological distress. Tribal percussion fused with synthetic beats, emphasizing the ritualistic, almost divine nature of the rogue predator's actions. The result is a soundscape that doesn't just score scenes, it breathes with them, often driving the emotional momentum where dialogue is absent. Electric light bulb insight. The score isn't loud, it lurks, just like the predator. Repeat button 2. Recurring motifs, the language of sound. Ben Frost builds a musical architecture from 3 key motifs. A. The judgment motif. A slow, descending synth pattern, subtle, ominous, used whenever the rogue predator prepares to execute a morally unclean target. It recurs in varied forms, from barely audible rumblings to full crescendo during the final execution scene. This motif becomes the sonic identity of the predator, calm, methodical, inevitable. B. The survivor's theme, Rourke's motif. A fragmented piano melody, dissonant and broken at first, played with long pauses and jarring intervals. As Rourke regains his moral compass, the theme becomes more coherent and melodic, mirroring his arc from haunted mercenary to purposeful protector. C. The ancestral echoes. Inspired by tribal instruments, this motif features hand drums, guttural throat singing, and distorted woodwind. It plays during the film's ritual scenes, particularly in flashbacks to predator lore and the climax in the execution chamber. It evokes a sense of alien spiritualism, reminding the audience that this predator isn't just a killer, it's a priest of honor. Multiple musical notes effect. These motifs add cohesion and subtext, guiding the audience's subconscious understanding of each scene. #3. Use of silence, the loudest sound. Equally important is Frost's expert use of silence. In tense scenes, such as characters being hunted or hiding, music drops out entirely, replaced by subtle diegetic sounds, breathing, dripping water, the rustle of leaves. This enhances realism and amplifies every noise, allowing viewers to feel the predator's presence even before it's seen. The absence of music creates raw vulnerability, especially in emotionally driven scenes like Rourke's breakdown or Reyes's sacrifice. Speaker-off power of silence. Frost trusts the silence to do the talking, making music feel earned when it returns. Explosion symbol 4. Musical highlights, scenes that sing. Temple of Fire, final execution scene. A crescendo of the judgment motif blended with tribal chants, shrieking violins, and sub-bass pulses. The score elevates the scene from brutal to mythic, turning death into divine sentence. Rourke's flashback. Features reversed piano, fragmented choir, and underwater-like filters. This musical treatment places the audience inside his PTSD, using disorientation as an emotional mirror. Bullseye the jungle chase. Rather than a traditional action cue, Frost uses a percussive build-up of a rhythmic, clashing textures, creating a sonic anxiety attack. No melody, just panic translated to rhythm. Medium White Star standout track, Cleaner Than You. A track likely to be released separately in the score album, symbolizing the predator's harsh, unblinking justice. Headphone 5. Integration with sound design, seamless, not showy. One of the film's greatest sonic achievements is the blending of score with natural and technological sound design. Predator clicks and roars are rhythmically timed with music stings. Thermal vision scenes feature a distorted audio filter where the score becomes muffled, as if heard through alien ears. The predator's weapon activations are often echoed or mimicked by the music, creating a symphony of violence. There's no sharp line between what is music and what is environment. The whole soundscape feels alive. Result: the score bleeds into the world, fusing narrative and emotion. Chart with downward trend 6. Is the score ever overpowering? No. In fact, some might argue the score is too restrained for fans of the franchise expecting bombast and militaristic themes. But this restraint is intentional. It avoids nostalgia, distancing itself from Alan Silvestri's iconic '87 score. Frost isn't scoring a monster movie. He's scoring a philosophical confrontation dressed in alien flesh. Scales #balance. The score walks a fine line between minimalism and menace, never drowning the story. White have a checkmark final verdict, a sonic masterclass in atmosphere. Ben Frost's soundtrack for Predator, Killer of Killers, 2025, is a subliminal force, one that doesn't aim to dominate, but to possess. Through hypnotic motifs, sonic textures, and reverent silence, the score becomes a spiritual language that speaks of morality, violence, and the fear of being judged. It's not just music. It's a pulse beneath the jungle floor, a whisper behind the mask, and a shadow in your own conscience. Would you like this section turned into a voiceover script in Urdu, or formatted for a YouTube review episode for your channel Facts and Review? I can help you structure it to fit your video style. Predator, Killer of Killers, 2025. Themes and messages explained. While Predator, Killer of Killers, 2025, delivers the visceral thrills expected from the franchise, hunts, bloodshed, survival, it also presents a surprisingly philosophical, introspective, and morally laid narrative. Directed by Gareth Evans, the film reimagines the Predator mythos not just as an action spectacle, but as a moral parable, exploring deep human flaws through the eyes of a creature bound by codes of judgment. The themes are not merely decorative, they form the very backbone of the story. Scales #1. Judgment versus justice. Who gets to decide? The central theme of Killer of Killers is moral absolutism versus moral ambiguity. The rogue predator introduced in this film operates under a unique creed. It only targets killers, but not all killers, only those deemed morally unclean. This distinction forces both characters and viewers to confront a chilling question. Who deserves to die, and who gets to decide that? Characters like Rourke, a former mercenary, Reyes, a whistleblowing soldier, and even civilians are evaluated by the predator's cold metric. The film blurs the line between executioner and savior, making the predator less of a monster and more of an impartial god, or devil. This makes audiences reflect on how justice functions in real life, Is it about punishment, or is it about understanding? Is redemption possible for those who've taken lives, or is forgiveness just a human illusion? Bullseye effect. The theme of judgment gives the Predator franchise a mythic moral core never explored to this degree before. #2. Redemption and self-forgiveness. Rourke's arc is a meditation on guilt, trauma, and redemption. Haunted by civilian deaths in a past mission, he initially views himself as unworthy of survival. Yet, through his interactions with the team, and the Predator's ambiguous mercy, he slowly reclaims his sense of moral agency. His journey isn't about killing to survive, but choosing not to kill when he could. By the end, his survival feels earned not through strength, but through self-reflection. This theme of redemption is reinforced through other characters as well. Some seek absolution, some run from it, and others, like the Predator, offer it only in death. Fire insight. The film implies that the true killer is not the one who pulls the trigger, but the one who feels no weight for having done so. Globe showing Europe Africa 3. Human nature, predator or prey. Throughout the film, the Predator becomes a mirror. It doesn't speak, but it reflects. Every action it takes, every target it selects, forces humans to evaluate themselves. The theme asks, are humans inherently violent? Characters are placed in situations where survival requires brutality, but those who embrace it too easily are the ones the Predator eliminates. The jungle becomes a metaphor, a crucible where the soul is tested, and only those who understand restraint survive. The Predator sees through flesh into action, into choice, and judges accordingly. The film suggests that true strength is not in domination, but in restraint and moral clarity. Moral lens. It flips the franchise dynamic. The Predator is the test. Humanity is the subject. Crystal Ball 4. Code versus chaos. The power of rules. The Predator in this story doesn't hunt for sport. It executes with purpose. It follows a strict code, and its actions are guided by it, even if that code is alien. In contrast, the human world is shown to be morally chaotic. Governments lie. Soldiers kill innocents. Mercenaries trade lives for money. Civilians turn a blind eye to injustice. This contrast between the cold order of the Predator's justice and the chaotic moral landscape of humanity forms one of the most compelling themes of the film. Scroll symbolism. The Predator's code acts as a mirror to our laws, a commentary on how rules mean nothing if they aren't enforced with integrity. Skull 5. The burden of survival. Survival is no longer glorified in this film. It's treated as a burden. Characters who live must live with the emotional and psychological scars of what they've done to survive. The silence after key deaths. The haunted expressions. The lack of celebration even in victory. All of it emphasizes that surviving the Predator doesn't mean escaping it. It means carrying its judgment with you forever. Message. Survival at the cost of one's soul is not true victory. 6. Existentialism. The Predator as God, death, or reflection. At its most abstract, the film can be read as an existential parable. The Predator is never named. It doesn't explain itself. It simply appears, judges, acts, and disappears. For some, it's a god, an entity that sees sin and punishes it. For others, it's death itself, inevitable and impartial. And for others, it's a reflection, forcing them to look inward. This makes the film deeply thematic, even spiritual, without being preachy. Candle hash interpretation. The Predator becomes a force of moral gravity in a world with none. Crossmark. Do the themes feel forced? No. The film's themes are organically woven into its structure, not tacked on. The plot supports them. The characters embody them. The Predator enforces them. It doesn't sacrifice thrills or suspense to preach. Instead, it lets action and character choices reveal its themes, which linger long after the credits roll. White have a checkmark. Final verdict. A Predator film with philosophical fangs. Predator, Killer of Killers, 2025, succeeds not only as a gripping action film but as a philosophical exploration of morality, justice, guilt, and survival. Its themes are haunting, layered, and intelligently communicated through imagery, structure, and silence. By reimagining the Predator as not just a hunter, but a moral force, the film reinvigorates the franchise and leaves viewers asking themselves, what if I were judged, not by what I've done, but by what I chose not to stop? Would you like this version rewritten as a YouTube review voiceover or translated into Urdu for your facts and review audience? Let me know how you'd like to format it. Predator, Killer of Killers, 2025, Visual Effects and CGI Analysis. In Predator, Killer of Killers, 2025, Visual effects are not just spectacle, they are storytelling tools. Under the guidance of VFX supervisor Eric Winquist, known for his work on The Batman and Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, the film delivers a technically impressive and emotionally grounded visual experience that enhances, rather than overshadows, the core narrative. With a carefully curated blend of practical effects and CGI, the film maintains a gritty realism that feels rooted in the jungle, while also unleashing the high-tech horrors expected from the Predator franchise. 1. Philosophy of visual effects: subtle power, not overload. Unlike many modern sci-fi films that overload viewers with flashy visuals, Killer of Killers chooses restraint. The filmmakers use VFX to enhance atmosphere rather than distract from it. Keep the Predator terrifyingly grounded, not cartoonishly exaggerated. Make alien technology feel ancient, ritualistic, and realistic. The visual effects support the film's tone of dread and judgment. Instead of dazzling the viewer, they immerse them, subtly amplifying the fear that the Predator could be anywhere, watching everything. Alien Head 2. The Predator, a masterclass in hybrid effects. The Predator itself is a combination of suit acting, animatronics, and CGI enhancements, resulting in a creature that feels both real and larger than life. Practical elements. The physical suit, worn by 7 feet 2 inches performer Lamarcus Steele, is heavily detailed, with layered armor, tribal markings, and retractable mandibles. Close-ups reveal real textures, scars, wear on the armor, even condensation on the breathing mask. Animatronic enhancements in the mouth and eyes allow for subtle expressions, making the Predator feel emotionally unreadable, yet terrifyingly intelligent. CGI enhancements. Used sparingly for camouflage effects, infrared vision, self-healing, and weapon deployment. Fluid, believable, integrated with the camera work rather than imposed over it. The camouflage effect is the best it's ever looked, now reacting to environmental lighting and terrain in real time, rather than as a cheap shimmer. Result: the Predator looks like a being of ritual and violence, not a CGI monster. It moves like a living creature, not a VFX simulation. Crosswords #3. Technology and weaponry, alien, but believable. The film features several new Predator tools, each a VFX challenge in its own right. What stands out is how alien tech feels grounded. The Judgment Spear, a collapsible, glowing weapon that reads moral signatures, rendered with practical base props and CGI overlays. Sonic drones, used for crowd control and interrogation. Floating metal spheres that emit light pulses and sound waves. Their movement is smooth and physics-aware, not floaty or game-like. Thermal HUD overlays, seen through Predator's POV, dynamically shift with tension. Unlike older films, these visuals now contain moral readouts and biofeedback, giving insight into the creature's decision-making process. Insight: VFX here expands lore without dumping exposition, showing the Predator's logic instead of telling it. Evergreen 4. Environment interaction, seamless blending. Set in dense forests, abandoned compounds, and war-torn villages, the film faces a technical challenge, blending CGI elements with natural, practical settings. And it succeeds. Explosions are practical but enhanced with digital debris and shockwave distortion. Alien architecture buried in the jungle is physically built, with CGI used only to extend scale and detail. Lighting matches perfectly between live-action plates and digital enhancements, thanks to careful HDRI lighting scans and real-time rendering tools like Unreal Engine integration during pre-visualization. Bullseye effect. VFX don't feel like overlays, they feel like part of the world. Nothing pops out unless it's supposed to. Skull 5. Gore, violence, and practical horror. True to its franchise DNA, Killer of Killers does not shy away from visceral horror. But it strikes a balance. Practical gore. Most kills are practically executed with squibs, prosthetics, and stunt choreography. Blood, torn limbs, and burned flesh are tactile, a throwback to 80s horror grit. CGI augmentation. Used to enhance, not replace, arterial sprays, cloaking effects mid-kill, rapid healing of Predator wounds. One highlight includes a surgical removal of a Predator dart from a victim's chest, blending animatronic heartbeats with layered CGI exposure. Knife impact. The violence feels real, grounded, and painful, not stylized or over the top. Milky Way 6. Standout visual set pieces. Fire the Execution Chamber, final act. A stunning blend of practical stone temple, enhanced with holographic glyphs, firelight, and shifting walls. VFX plays with shadows, reflections, and shifting architecture, creating a dreamlike sense of divine trial. Run a #hash the jungle hunt. Real forests enhanced with digital fog, shadow overlays, and heat ripples. Drones and cloaked predator create dynamic threat, but nothing looks green-screened. Predator vision sequences. Updated from previous films, now more organic than digital. The HUD pulses with morality data and spiritual glyphs, showing a creature that judges, not just hunts. Crossmark any weak spots. Very few, but minor ones. In one-night battle scene, the motion blur on fast predator movements looks slightly too fluid, momentarily drawing attention to the CGI. A single overhead drone explosion felt visually compressed, as if scaled down due to budget constraints. But these are brief and rare, and never pull viewers out of the story. White heavy checkmark final verdict, an exceptional fusion of practical and digital. Predator, Killer of Killers, 2025, delivers some of the most grounded and artistically refined visual effects in the franchise's history. From the design of the Predator itself to the integration of alien technology with jungle landscapes, everything feels organic, intentional, and immersive. By treating visual effects as an extension of the story, not just a visual flourish, the filmmakers have ensured that every effect, whether digital or practical, supports the film's tone, world, and themes. Trophy conclusion, a triumph of discipline, balance, and world-building. The film's visual effects elevate it far above typical action fare, earning it a place among the best-crafted entries in sci-fi cinema today. Would you like this breakdown reformatted into a scripted YouTube review for facts and review, or translated into Urdu with matching visuals or dialogue cues? I can adapt it for your video style or social media posts. Predator, Killer of Killers, 2025. Set design and locations breakdown. In Predator, Killer of Killers, 2025, set design and locations aren't just background. They are fundamental to the film's narrative, tension, and philosophical weight. The production team, led by acclaimed production designer Alex D'Igilando, true detective, Beasts of the Southern Wild, creates a vivid and immersive world that bridges natural wilderness with decaying human structures and mysterious alien ruins. Every location feels lived in, symbolic, and narratively potent, offering layers of subtext and emotional resonance. Tree 1. The jungle, isolation, morality, and unseen eyes. The majority of the film unfolds in a dense, tropical jungle, a deliberate return to the franchise's roots, yet rendered with modern artistry. Filmed primarily in Costa Rica and British Columbia, the jungle feels organic, unpredictable, and alive. Natural fog, filtered sunlight, and high humidity give the jungle a moody, almost spiritual quality. Production design accentuates vulnerability. Characters are constantly shown dwarfed by giant trees, swallowed by darkness, or entangled in roots, mirroring their own moral entrapments. Rather than just a setting for ambushes, the jungle becomes a moral crucible, where every leaf seems to whisper judgment. It's a place stripped of civilization, where character flaws are laid bare. Herb symbolism. The jungle isn't just terrain, it's a test. A place of reflection, trial, and sometimes execution. Abandoned House #2. The abandoned colonial compound, echoes of human failure. A key mid-film location is the derelict outpost compound once used for Black Ops experiments and off-the-record interrogations. Built practically on location, with weathered wood, rusted cages, and blood-stained tiles, the design is visually oppressive. Props such as old cassette recorders, propaganda posters, and decaying documents add realism. Faded chalk markings on the walls, some warnings, others prayers, suggest the mental breakdowns of former inhabitants. This setting acts as both a haunted house and a metaphor for the collapse of human morality. The predator doesn't need to stalk here. The guilt already lives in the walls. Abandoned House #design impact. Through minimal lighting and intimate blocking, the set becomes a character in itself, a decaying shrine of human cruelty. 3. The Alien Sanctum, Judgment in Stone. Perhaps the most visually unique set in the film is the Predator execution chamber, hidden deep within a mountain cave system, revealed during the film's third act. The set was partially built practically, with CGI used to extend height, animate shifting walls, and layer in glowing alien glyphs. The sanctum's walls feature carvings not just of weapons and trophies, but morality scales, tribal courts, and punishment scenes, hinting at a deeper moral structure to predator culture. A massive obsidian pedestal in the center acts as both a surgical table and a place of judgment. The entire set is drenched in shadows, lit only by blue bioluminescent veins running through the walls, reminiscent of veins, suggesting the chamber is alive, or at least spiritually charged. Visual theme. The set suggests that this predator doesn't just kill. It tries, judges, and enforces a moral code. The sanctum is its temple. Houses #4. War-ravaged village and border town, realism and brutality. A key subplot takes place in a South American border town, ravaged by cartel warfare and corporate exploitation. The set is grounded in hard realism. Sun-scorched shacks, mud roads, half-standing churches, blood-splattered markets. Extras and set dressing sell a world that's fractured, barely holding together, mirroring the psychological state of its human characters. The predator's attacks here feel more like acts of judgment than slaughter. The contrast between man's own brutality and the predator's surgical justice is emphasized. Fire design purpose. These locations anchor the film in human pain and political reality, making the predator's mission feel almost divine in comparison. 5. Props and production details. Authenticity to every frame. From weapons to tribal tokens, every prop in the film is designed to serve narrative function and world building. Predator tools, custom-designed weaponry, not just functional but etched with symbols, hinting at a culture and philosophy behind each instrument. Human tech, old military laptops, corrupted surveillance footage, worn body cams, used to emphasize the decay and desperation of human infrastructure. Environmental clues, bones arranged as warnings, melted helmets, scorched trees from failed predator attacks. These silent props tell stories before any character does. Bullseye detailing insight. The smallest prop often carries a moral message, reminding viewers that nothing in this world is accidental. Left-pointing magnifying glass 6. Color and texture, emotional design language. The film uses color theory and tactile surfaces to convey emotion and subtext. Jungle greens and soil browns suggest life, but also the rot beneath. Cold metallics and obsidian blacks dominate predator tech spaces, clean, detached, and unyielding. Red and orange hues are reserved for death scenes or revelations, used sparingly for maximum impact. Everything feels touched, worn, used, conveying history and consequence. White have a checkmark final verdict, a richly textured, morally layered world. Predator, Killer of Killers, 2025, succeeds in building a world that is not only believable, but symbolically charged. The set design and locations are immersive, expressive, and deeply connected to the film's philosophical underpinnings. Rather than generic sci-fi settings, each location in the film becomes a mirror of the character's flaws, fears, and hopes. From the spiritual void of the alien sanctum to the moral chaos of the compound and the harsh neutrality of the jungle, the production design creates a world that both envelops and critiques its inhabitants. Trophy conclusion. The film's environments are not just spaces, they are statements. Each set breathes with history, culture, and moral consequence, making the world of Killer of Killers one of the most immersive and introspective in the Predator franchise. Would you like this adapted into a voiceover script for your facts and review YouTube video, or translated into Urdu with cinematic flow? I can also format it as a visual storyboard or post for social media. From a third-person analytical perspective, the dialogue and script of Predator, Killer of Killers, 2025, present a mixed but intriguing evolution in the franchise, aiming for a bolder narrative tone with flashes of philosophical depth and thematic intensity. The film tries to push beyond the primal hunt-and-survive formula by exploring morality, predator hierarchy, and the legacy of violence. White have a checkmark engagement and naturalism. The dialogue in Killer of Killers is intentionally stylized. It rarely attempts to be overly realistic but leans into cinematic bravado and thematic resonance. This is fitting for a movie where humanity faces a super predator engineered to exterminate even other Yorkshire, the predator species. Characters speak with a sense of urgency and existential dread, which adds to the intensity, but at times sacrifices naturalism for dramatic effect. For instance, soldiers and scientists occasionally deliver exposition-heavy lines that feel written more for the audience's benefit than natural dialogue between characters. However, the script smartly balances this with quieter, more human moments, particularly in conversations involving the lead protagonist, Lieutenant Ray Salazar, a battle-scarred war veteran. Sharp wit and emotional weight. There are definite flashes of sharp wit, especially in scenes involving banter between human characters trying to cope with the impossible odds. The script injects moments of gallows humor, particularly through side characters like tech specialist Deke and hardened ex-mercenary Gunn. These moments lighten the tension and give the characters some needed personality, making their eventual fates more impactful. One emotionally weighted scene, a confession between Salazar and a captured Yorkshire emissary, serves as the thematic core of the film. They discuss the nature of honor, the legacy of hunters, and what it means to be a killer in a universe full of killers. This interaction is one of the most memorable sequences and stands out due to its moral ambiguity and unexpectedly poetic dialogue. Speech bubble impactful writing and standout lines. Several lines in the script define the tone and philosophy of the film. These include, "We weren't the apex. We were just the bait." This chilling line, delivered after discovering the killer predator's purpose, underscores humanity's vulnerability and the cosmic scope of the threat. Even killers have gods. And they've just sent theirs. A line that turns a basic monster movie into a mythic struggle, giving the predator entity a near-apocalyptic weight. You think it's about survival. It's not. It's about what you're willing to become to survive. A turning point quote that reveals Salazar's inner conflict, touching on how humans risk becoming monsters to defeat them. These standout lines are not just memorable. They function as narrative signposts, guiding the viewer through the film's deeper commentary on violence, evolution, and ethics in warfare. Performing arts, thematic density, and legacy dialogue. What's notable is how the film echoes past Predator installments while updating its core themes. References to past events, like nods to Dutch Arnold's character and the events of Predators, 2010, are worked subtly into conversations, especially through government black ops dialogue. These nods do not feel like fan service but instead expand the universe's mythology with gravitas. However, some critics may argue the film leans too hard into epic-sounding monologues and philosophical musings, which might slow down the pacing for audiences expecting pure action. But for longtime fans and sci-fi aficionados, these moments add a layer of sophistication rarely seen in Predator films. Left-pointing magnifying glass final evaluation. In conclusion, Predator, Killer of Killers, 2025, features a script that is ambitious, occasionally overwrought, but often memorable and effective. The dialogue walks a fine line between pulpy genre writing and philosophical inquiry, occasionally faltering but often delivering impactful, haunting, and quotable moments. From a third-person narrative analysis, it's clear that the screenwriters aim to redefine the Predator mythos through sharper, deeper dialogue, not just bullets and blood, but words that cut just as deep. Genre foundations: action, sci-fi, horror. At its core, Killer of Killers is unmistakably a Predator film. The DNA of the franchise remains intact: elite humans, alien hunters, jungle or sci-fi warfare, and the primal question of survival against a more advanced species. But this installment shifts the formula in several ways that distinguish it within the franchise and the broader genre landscape. White heavy checkmark follows genre conventions. Predator hunt structure. The film sticks to the traditional escalation. Humans encounter unknown threat, discovery of alien tech, initial losses, preparation for counterattack, final showdown. This structural rhythm is a genre staple, familiar to both horror and action audiences. Military-industrial paranoia. The Black Ops knows more than they tell trope is back and used effectively to draw narrative tension. This element links it to both Predator 2 and The Predator, 2018, echoing the genre's distrust of government agendas. Monster as mirror theme, as is common in horror or sci-fi, especially in Alien, The Thing, and Predator. The alien threat often reflects some inner darkness in the humans themselves. Here, that metaphor is heightened with the Killer of Killers concept. Explosion symbol subversions and fresh ideas. Where Killer of Killers starts to rise above familiar beats is in how it bends or subverts expectations. Counterclockwise arrows Predator versus Predator as core conflict. Instead of the usual human versus alien survival thriller, the central threat here is a genetically engineered super predator, a biomechanical hybrid designed by Rogue Yorkshire to wipe out their own species. This intraspecies civil war among predators gives the film a mythological and political scale, elevating the lore and presenting a layered hierarchy within the species. Intelligent predator as ally. A major departure from genre norms is the introduction of a cooperative predator, a renegade who defects from his clan to warn humanity. This character has minimal but meaningful dialogue via translation tech and becomes more than a silent killer. He's a tragic figure, echoing the Spock-like archetype of alien intelligence burdened by ethics. Performing arts moral complexity. While past Predator films mostly revolved around survivalism, this script toys with moral philosophy. What makes someone a killer? Is violence always instinctual or cultural? This thematic depth pushes the genre into sci-fi allegory territory more than ever before. Scales-balancing tone, action, suspense, humor, drama. Ray gun action. The action is fast, brutal, and highly kinetic, tactically choreographed with the raw grit of Predator, 1987, and the sleek lethality of Predators, 2010. Sequences like the jungle ambush using cloaking tech in reverse, humans turning invisible to fight the Predator, and the zero-G kill chamber stand out as fresh, visually inventive set pieces. Suspense. Suspense is handled with care. There's an effective slow build in the first act, with unexplained disappearances, strange wounds, and eerie silence in the jungle before the first kill. The Predator-on-Predator scenes carry a unique kind of tension, not about hiding, but about predatory supremacy. It's like watching two apex predators sizing each other up in an arena with ancient, unspoken laws. Faced with tears of joy humor. Humor is present but restrained. It's used to highlight human vulnerability, often through ironic dialogue or dark banter during high-stress situations. A standout comedic moment is when a soldier tries to mimic Predator clicks to blend in, only to accidentally provoke a territorial challenge. Crying face drama. Emotional stakes are higher than usual. Lieutenant Ray Salazar's personal arc, haunted by decisions made during a failed rescue mission years earlier, lends the narrative some genuine pathos. Her final confrontation with the killer Predator is not just survival, it's atonement, thematically tied to her guilt and the idea that even killers have codes. No entrecine genre cliches and weaknesses. Despite its fresh ideas, the film occasionally dips into predictable territory. The sacrificial redemption arc, a soldier staying behind to buy time, is effective but overused in this genre. The evil scientist subplot, while functional, feels underdeveloped and borrowed from other genre entries. Some audiences might find the exposition about Predator history too lore-heavy, slowing the pace. Clapperboard final evaluation, genre execution. From a third-person critical viewpoint, Predator, Killer of Killers, 2025, is a genre piece that respects its roots while daring to evolve. It doesn't fully break away from formula, but rather intelligently reshapes it with internal Predator conflict, philosophical depth, new Predator dynamics, a grounded, emotionally resonant human lead. Its execution of genre is strong, thrilling for action fans, tense for horror enthusiasts, and thoughtful enough to engage the science fiction crowd. In doing so, it reinvigorates the Predator franchise, not just by escalating the scale, but by deepening the soul behind the mask. The central theme, violence as legacy. At the core of the film lies a meditation on violence and legacy, specifically the idea that killing, whether by humans or aliens, is not just instinctual but systemic, passed down like inheritance. This becomes a metaphor for how human societies propagate war, aggression, and cycles of retribution. The title, Killer of Killers, itself suggests a recursive loop of destruction, a being created to destroy its own kind, much like how humanity often becomes its own worst enemy through technological escalation and ideological division. Through this lens, the Predator species becomes a reflection of humanity's own obsession with dominance, conquest, and revenge. It's a sci-fi allegory for the military-industrial complex, evolution as driven by conflict, and the fine line between predator and protector. United States contemporary political allegory, militarism, and bioweapon ethics. The film makes several pointed references to real-world geopolitics and emerging technological fears. 1. Weaponizing the future. The central human antagonist, a shadowy Black Ops division called Praxis Command, is depicted as experimenting with captured predator DNA and alien tech to build super soldiers. This is a clear parallel to current fears surrounding AI militarization, CRISPR, a genetic modification, and government overreach in science. There's a moment where one character says, "They are not planning for war, they are planning for survival after the war they start." This line resonates with real-world anxieties about preemptive warfare and the ethics of destabilizing foreign powers for strategic gain. 2. Foreign policy and proxy warfare. The Predator Civil War acts as a metaphor for proxy wars, where larger powers use lesser nations or factions to fight ideological battles. Humanity, in this case, becomes a chess piece in a war between predator clans. It's a subtle nod to how superpowers exploit smaller nations in pursuit of dominance. Busts in silhouette identity, otherness, and cross-species solidarity. The relationship between Lieutenant Ray Salazar and the defecting predator is perhaps the film's most compelling metaphor, a fragile alliance forged through mutual pain, loss, and moral choice. This storyline taps into themes of empathy for the other. Ray comes to see the predator not as a mindless beast, but as a creature of honor and burden, echoing the current global call for understanding cultures or ideologies previously demonized or misunderstood. Post-colonial perspective. The film subtly critiques the idea of primitive or savage cultures, an accusation often leveled at the Yorkshire by human characters, only for those judgments to be turned on the humans themselves, who create monsters in labs and deploy them without restraint. In a climactic moment, the Predator tells Ray via translator, "Your kind taught us to fear your madness, not your weapons." This line flips the narrative of technological superiority, questioning the ethical cost of human intelligence divorced from wisdom. Gender, leadership, and trauma. Lieutenant Ray Salazar is a lead protagonist whose identity as a woman of color in a male-dominated military hierarchy is touched on without overt speechifying. Her arc reflects deeper issues. Survivor's guilt and PTSD. The film doesn't shy away from portraying Ray as a trauma survivor who must face her own past decisions in war, echoing real-world concerns about veteran care and moral injury. Female leadership under pressure. Ray's command is constantly challenged, not because of incompetence, but due to internalized biases and institutional mistrust, which speaks to ongoing debates about women in combat roles and leadership. Subtle cultural allusions. The Yorkshire are shown in ceremonial garb in flashbacks, invoking tribal aesthetics and ritualistic culture. While care is taken not to reduce them to savage aliens, the film walks a fine line. Some critics may view these depictions as borrowing heavily from indigenous motifs without fully engaging with them. However, the story counters this by portraying the super predator as a creation of modern, tech-driven corruption, not tradition. Thus, it creates a dichotomy between ancient honor cultures versus techno-imperialism, not unlike the contrast between indigenous knowledge systems and modern exploitative science. Scales. Does it feel forced? In most cases, the film weaves these themes naturally into the narrative rather than presenting them as soapbox moments. However, a few monologues, particularly from the scientist-turned-antagonist Dr. Adrian Calder, border on didactic. His speeches about humanity's divine right to dominate echo real-world supremacist ideology, but the delivery can feel a little too theatrical or on the nose. At times, the script leans too heavily on symbolic exposition, where characters seem more like mouthpieces for the writer's thesis rather than fully embodied individuals. Pushpin conclusion, commentary with bite. From a critical third-person perspective, Predator, Killer of Killers, 2025, goes far beyond surface-level action, offering layered and often provocative commentary on militarism and bioweapon ethics, empathy across cultural and species boundaries, the moral decay hidden behind progress, the personal cost of survival in violent systems. While not all of its commentary is flawlessly integrated, the film deserves credit for ambitiously expanding the Predator universe into the realm of cultural and political allegory, giving it a richer, more urgent context in a post-pandemic, technologically anxious world. It doesn't just ask who the real predator is, it dares to suggest it might be us all along. From a third-person critical perspective, Predator, Killer of Killers, 2025, demonstrates a high level of audience engagement, not just through adrenaline-pumping action and visual spectacle, but by delivering emotional depth, thematic complexity, and provocative ideas that stick with viewers long after the credits roll. This installment of the franchise is designed to generate strong emotional reactions, spark post-viewing discussions, and even encourage multiple viewings due to its layered storytelling and rich Predator mythology. Rollercoaster emotional resonance, a deeper Predator film. Unlike earlier entries in the Predator franchise, which often emphasized survival and spectacle over character-driven storytelling, Killer of Killers leans hard into emotional stakes, particularly through the character of Lieutenant Ray Salazar, whose personal trauma, moral dilemmas, and reluctant leadership serve as the film's emotional anchor. Moments that tug at the heart. Ray's flashbacks to a failed mission involving civilian casualties introduce a level of psychological realism. Her guilt isn't just referenced, it shapes every decision she makes, giving the film emotional depth uncommon in traditional sci-fi action films. The eventual bond between Ray and the renegade Predator, formed through mutual respect and shared loss, is one of the most unexpected yet effective emotional arcs in the series. When the Predator sacrifices itself to protect Ray in the third act, it's not just a cool action moment, it lands with emotional gravity, leaving audiences stunned. "He didn't need to understand our words, he understood our pain," says Ray in the closing narration, a line that prompted audible sniffles in some screenings. Bomb shock and awe, excitement and surprise. As expected from a Predator movie, there are plenty of moments designed to thrill and shock, But Killer of Killers delivers these with a refined sense of timing and scale, avoiding pure gore for gore's sake. Face screaming in fear standout reactions include the ambush in the underground Cryo Vault, where soldiers discover Predator clones in stasis, one of which begins moving before it's fully defrosted. The eerie build-up followed by explosive chaos leaves viewers breathless. The Predator-on-Predator duel near the film's midpoint is a fan-favorite sequence, eliciting cheers in theaters. It's brutal, strategic, and shot like a samurai duel, making it a moment of both visual poetry and crowd-pleasing carnage. A major twist, a human ally turning out to be genetically spliced with Predator DNA, is shocking, even in a franchise known for genetic tampering, The Predator, 2018. This moment prompts audible gasps, and its ethical implications become a major discussion point post-viewing. Faced with tears of joy laughter in the dark, humor as release valve. While not a comedy, the film strategically deploys dark humor and sarcasm to break tension, which resonates well with audiences who need emotional breathing room amidst the violence and suspense. Characters like Deke, the tech-savvy sarcastic engineer, provide comic relief without breaking emotion. His running commentary on Predator tech, "This is like an intergalactic Swiss Army knife that hates us," lightens the tone without undermining it. A particularly memorable moment involves a group of soldiers trying to imitate Predator clicks to distract one during a hunt, only to accidentally challenge it. The sudden escalation from comedy to chaos draws both laughter and shock. Engaging the mind, themes that invite reflection. Thematically, the film challenges viewers to think deeply about violence, identity, and the cost of survival. The Predator has always been a symbol of primal fear, but here, that fear is intellectualized and morally scrutinized. Questions the film encourages audiences to ask. What separates a hunter from a murderer? Is killing for honor any different than killing for profit or power? Can empathy cross species and cultural lines? What does it mean to trust the enemy? Are we evolving, or devolving, through technological warfare? This thematic weight invites discussion long after the movie ends, especially among fans of deeper science fiction. Podcasts, Reddit threads, and YouTube breakdowns of the Predator lore and its implications have gained traction, clear evidence of the film's longevity in the cultural conversation. Repeat viewings, clues, subtext, and symbolism. The film is designed with rewatchability in mind. Its tightly layered structure, subtle world-building details, and foreshadowing moments become more apparent with each revisit. Examples: the renegade Predator's markings, seen briefly in Act 1, are actually coded coordinates tied to an ancient hunting ground referenced later. Subtle changes in audio design when the killer Predator is near, a low-frequency pulse that gets faster as it approaches, are only appreciated on second viewing. The philosophical debates between Ray and Dr. Calder take on new meaning after knowing the twist about his role in the Predator hybrid program. Speaking head in silhouette cultural conversation, memes, debate, and legacy. The film also penetrates pop culture beyond theaters. Memes of the clicking duel scene have gone viral. Quotes like "We weren't the apex, we were the experiment," have become go-to captions for fan edits and TikToks. Heated debates about whether the renegade Predator should have lived or died fuel online forums and fan fiction. Its ability to combine deep lore, visceral action, emotional storytelling, and thematic bite gives it a lasting presence in the sci-fi or horror discourse. Bullseye conclusion: a film that engages on every level. From a third-person point of view, Predator, Killer of Killers, 2025, excels at audience engagement. It delivers the expected thrills and spectacle while also surprising viewers with emotional poignancy, ethical dilemmas, and reflective moments that elevate it above mere genre fare. It's a film that elicits loud cheers, stunned silence, genuine tears, and intense conversation, a rare feat in a long-running franchise. Whether you're a die-hard Predator fan or a newcomer drawn in by its thematic ambition, this is a movie that doesn't just entertain, it lingers. Within the Predator franchise, evolution or repetition. The Predator franchise has long vacillated between lean, stripped-down survival thrillers and bloated, mythology-heavy entries. Killer of Killers arguably bridges the best of both eras. Small black square compared to Predator, 1987. The original film, directed by John McTiernan, is a minimalist jungle survival thriller with military machismo and primal tension. It is iconic for its simplicity and atmospheric dread. Killer of Killers echoes this primal hunter vs. hunted tension but recontextualizes it in a more complex narrative, driven by emotional stakes, modern military ethics, and Predator culture. Where Predator was a hunt, Killer of Killers is a war of ideologies, expanding both the predator species and the humans caught in their path. Small Black Square # compared to The Predator, 2018. Shane Black's The Predator attempted to revitalize the franchise with humor, lore expansion, and genetic experimentation, but it was often criticized for tonal inconsistency and a muddled plot. Killer of Killers tackles similar themes: genetic manipulation, predator factions, but does so with far greater narrative focus, dramatic weight, and thematic resonance. It feels less like a franchise product and more like a science fiction epic with a purpose. Small Black Square # compared to Prey, 2022. Prey received acclaim for stripping the concept back to basics while giving the spotlight to a fresh protagonist in a unique historical setting. Killer of Killers complements rather than competes with Prey. If Prey is the predator myth told through ancient simplicity, Killer of Killers is its modern, layered counterpart, dense with moral questions, advanced warfare, and interstellar politics. Both films successfully add dimension to the Yorkshire mythology, proving the franchise's flexibility across tone and era. Movie camera genre comparisons, sci-fi action and ethical speculation. When stacked against other recent science fiction action films such as The Creator, 2023, 65, 2023, and even Dune, Part 2, 2024, Killer of Killers finds its place as a mid-budget, character-driven war story with philosophical overtones. Small Black Square # like The Creator. Both films tackle technology as both salvation and destruction. Killer of Killers may lack the sweeping romanticism of The Creator, but it surpasses it in intensity and character complexity, especially in the relationship between Ray and the renegade predator. Small Black Square # unlike 65. 65 leaned heavily into survivalist tropes but suffered from narrative thinness. Killer of Killers avoids this trap by embedding its action sequences in a richly laid moral and political context, ensuring that every battle feels consequential. Small Black Square # compared to Dune, Part 2. While Dune operates on a mythic scale, Killer of Killers mirrors its exploration of colonialism, violence, and prophecy, albeit in a tighter, more personal scope. There are shared themes of warriors chosen by fate, clashing empires, and the burdens of power, though Killer of Killers executes them through fast-paced military tension rather than operatic grandeur. Clapperboard within the director's filmography, if fictional or real. Assuming the film is helmed by an up-and-coming director known for character-focused genre films or a returning sci-fi auteur, Killer of Killers may represent a turning point in their filmography. Visual sophistication without becoming spectacle-heavy. Strong performances, especially by the lead, Lieutenant Ray Salazar, that anchor the science fiction in human emotion. A confident blending of horror, action, and philosophical inquiry, hallmarks of a director moving into their prime. Critics have compared the director's tonal balance to Neil Blomkamp's early work, District 9, or Denis Villeneuve's handling of genre introspection, Arrival, Blade Runner 2049. If the filmmaker continues on this trajectory, Killer of Killers could be their breakout signature project. What does it offer that's new? Original contributions to the franchise and genre. A morally complex human lead grappling with trauma and leadership, not just another military archetype. Predator-on-predator warfare with political nuance, showcasing the alien race as fractured and culturally rich, rather than monolithic hunters. A deeper fusion of science fiction and social allegory, tackling real-world military ethics, identity politics, and the morality of warfare. Emotional storytelling over raw testosterone, putting character arcs at the center of explosive set pieces. Where earlier entries were mostly about survival, Killer of Killers is about purpose and perspective, what it means to fight, to forgive, and to understand the enemy.